What's up, everybody? My name is Reba, and I have been summarizing course one for myself, actually, because it helps me, and I hope it helps you as well. So let's get to today's summarization of Module 5, Course 1, Lesson 1 to 8. It's the Lesson 1 is pretty easy. It just talks about Reba. Let me go to that right now. Lesson 1. Okay, there you go. Sorry, I closed it by accident. I don't know why, but let's get back to it. Everything's crazy nowadays, man. We're heading into a third lockdown, and I don't know how to feel about that, but I don't care, to be honest. I got used to this thing. So okay, here's go. It's open. Enough of small talk. Let's summarize lesson 1. Oh god. Okay, so lesson 1, they talk about Reba. Reba is the legislative framework that regulates the real estate profession to enhance consumer protection. Reba includes regulations and obligations related to restriction to trading, registration requirement, complaints, conduct, and offenses. Reba consists of the act, the legislation, and 5 associated regulations. And then lesson 1 also talks about the code of ethics. The code of ethics is one of the associated regulations and identifies the minimum standards of a registrant when conducting business. Registrants who fail to adhere to the code can face strict penalties imposed by the discipline committee, including the requirement to take additional educational courses, payment of a fine, and payment of a fixed / imposed cost. That was lesson 1. So if you really want to get into detail with Reba, do read the whole thing. Lesson 2 talks about prohibitions and stuff. So prohibition against trading in real estate unless registered. A brokerage, and salesperson must be registered under Reba to trade in real estate. An individual is deemed to be trading in real estate when participating in any activity which would advance a real estate transaction. Unregistered person can be employed by a brokerage or a salesperson, but are limited to their scope of permitted activities. A person who is not registered must not perform any task that generally falls under the definition of a trade. Registration exemption. Certain individuals are exempt from registration when performing specific activities under specific circumstances. Such exemptions are to registration include an auctioneer when auctioning a property, a full-time salaried employee of a builder, a real estate lawyer disposing of a property to settle an estate, a financial institute disposing of a property under a mortgage default, a person a person selling their own home, a person who arranges leases under the Residential Tenancy Act 2006. Okay, so these guys, they can perform real estate related transactions without having to register. So a salesperson must be notified in writing that they are registered with RICO before trading in real estate. A salesperson can obtain an electronic version of their registration certificate. Requirements. A salesperson must be registered or exempt from registration at the time of providing services to be eligible to make a claim of commission. So in order to get commission, man, you better be registered with the RICO. So that was lesson 2. It literally just talks about who can and who cannot do transactions in real estate. Lesson 3 talks about registration. So the broker of record, a broker of record ensures that the brokerage and all employees comply with Reba. The broker of record does so by taking an active role in the management of the brokerage, ensuring there are adequate levels of supervision, and taking steps to address non-compliance issues. The brokerage must provide the registrar with the name of the broker of record in writing. If the broker of record changes, the brokerage must notify the registrant within 5 days of the change. Registration consideration. The registrar will take into consideration certain factors that could impact an application for registration. The applicant's financial position, past conduct, and the impact of making false statements on an application are all reviewed. An applicant must submit full details of the circumstances and specific documentation with their application to RICO. These disclosures do not necessarily result in denial of registration, but decision is not possible without full disclosure and the registrar's review of documentation provided by the applicant. Registration refusal. The registrar can refuse to approve an application for registration or renewal, or suspend or revoke a registration. Under certain circumstances, an application will require specific information and disclosures to be made. An applicant who has past unprofessional conduct or criminal charges, or who incorrectly or incompletely answers any questions, could have an application for registration refused. In some instances, the registrar may approve the registration or renewal of a registration by attaching conditions to which the applicant or the registrant voluntarily agrees. So that was lesson 3. Basically means you better have your stuff together. Okay, lesson 4. Lesson 4 really talks about complaints. Not all inquiries or complaints result in action taken against registrant if the complaint is outside of RICO's jurisdiction, or there is no evidence to support the complaint. No action is taken. If the complaint is supported by evidence, depending on the severity of the offense, there are various discipline paths and outcomes. Every complaint received by RICO is unique, and there are many potential outcomes, including dispute resolutions, written warnings, fines, and prison terms for a conviction under the Act. Some infractions are honest mistakes. However, if the same infraction is made repeatedly, something more serious is happening. Hence, RICO can take a progressive discipline approach. Registrar's option to address a complaint. RICO has a flexible and impartial process to deal with a consumer complaint against registrant. Since complaints range in severity, RICO handles them on a case-by-case basis. RICO considers the unique circumstances and decides on a fitting consequence. Options include requiring acknowledgement and undertaking, apply voluntary conditions, request a meeting, meditate or resolve the complaint, issue a warning, require educational courses. Salesperson should familiarize themselves with RICO's range of disciplinary actions so that they realize what consequences may result in if they intentionally or unintentionally violate Reba. And then they talk about severe consequences. Most severe thing that can happen to registrar is that the immediate suspension of a registration. Registrar's proposal to revoke, suspend, or refuse to renew or approve a registration, prosecution under the provincial offense. Inspections. Okay, this one's very important. RICO has the right to inspect brokerages as part of its mandate. These can be done to ensure compliance with the Act, confirm a registrant remains entitled to registration, or as a fact-finding exercise when investigating a complaint involving a registrant. It is important for a salesperson to be aware of these inspections entail so that they are equipped to deal with them should they need to. And then they talk about code of ethic violations. If RICO determines that there could have been a breach of code, the matter may be referred to the discipline committee. If found guilty, the committee can require the registrant to take educational courses, pay a fine, impose additional costs. The maximum fine for an individual is $50,000, a lot of money, and for a brokerage, $100,000, not a lot, but still a lot. Restaurant can appeal a discipline committee decision. The appeals committee can overturn, affirm, or modify the order of the discipline committee. Understanding the severity and consequences of a breach can encourage a salesperson to always be conscious of upholding the code in their day-to-day activities on the job. So that was lesson 4. Basically talks about complaints, inspections, and discipline. Lesson 5 talks about conduct and offenses. Okay, first thing to talk about is trust accounts. Reba requires all brokerages to maintain a trust account, which is to be used only for money received in trust for other persons in connection with a trade, such as a buyer's deposit. A salesperson must be diligent when obtaining a buyer's deposit to ensure the deposit holder can comply with the requirement to place the money in the trust account within 5 days of the receipt. Employment with a brokerage. The Act includes restrictions for brokerages, brokers, and salespersons regarding their employment. A brokerage cannot employ an unregistered person to trade, nor can a brokerage pay any commission to an unregistered person. A salesperson may only trade in real estate on behalf of the brokerage they are employed by, and may only accept commission or other remunerations such as a referral fee from the brokerage which employs them. A salesperson commission and remuneration. Reba identifies how commission or other remuneration can be charged by a brokerage. Allowable methods include an agreed amount, a percentage of sale, or a combination of both. Additional restrictions regarding commission include: if there is no agreed amount, the rate of commission is what is generally prevailing in the community where the real estate is located. If expressed as a percentage of the sales price, the rate can be series of percentages where the rate decreases as the sales price increases. The commission cannot be charged on the difference between the listing price and the selling price. Okay, that's pretty self-explanatory. And then they talk about falsifying information. If it is an offense to falsify information, falsifying information or documents can pose a risk to a salesperson and the brokerage, so don't do that. False advertising. A registrant advertising can come under scrutiny by various municipal, provincial, and federal authorities. Reba focuses on a misleading statement, false statement, a deceptive statement, and inaccurate representation. So basically, Reba takes care of that. So make sure there are no false advertisement. Advertising. If a registrant is found to be in violation of any advertising requirements, the Act allows the registrar several options for recourse. Order the false advertising to stop immediately, order the registrant to retract statements or publish corrections, order the registrant to do both or above, and then the penalties for a conviction under the Act. An individual can be fined up to $50,000 or up to 2 years in prison, less a day. A corporation could be fined up to $250,000. In addition, a registration could be suspended or revoked. A convicted registrant may also be ordered to pay compensation or restitution to the affected parties. That was lesson 5. Lesson 5 basically talks about offenses and conduct. Lesson 6 talks about the code of ethics. The code of ethics and its obligations are: the code sets a minimum standard for registrant when conducting business. These standards are in place to protect the public interest and promote professionalism amongst registrant. These obligations impact every transaction as a salesperson has with a consumer, other professionals, and other registrant. At times, the obligations will vary depending on the client or customer relationship established with the seller or buyer. Fairness, honesty, and integrity. Section 3 of the code. Registrants are to treat every person they deal with during a trade fairly, honestly, and with integrity. This would include buyers, sellers, and other professionals. Best interests. Section 4 of the code. A registrant must also always work in the best interest of the registrant client and actively promote and protect that interest. Personal interests must never take precedence over the client's interest. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And then conscious and competent service. Section 5 of the code. Registrants owe a duty of care to both clients and customers. This duty always requires that the conscious and competent service be provided, including ensuring the facts gathered are accurate and complete. Material facts under Section 21 of the code. A material fact is any fact that would affect a reasonable person's decision to buy or sell a property and the price paid based on that knowledge. Disclosure of material facts both to clients and customers are required. For clients, the obligation is to take reasonable steps to determine and disclose such facts. With customers, the obligation is more limited to disclosing only those material facts that are known. Providing opinions, Section 6 of the code. Registrants are required to demonstrate reasonable knowledge, skill, judgment, and competence when answering questions, providing information, and providing advice. In particular, when providing an opinion on the value of real estate, brokers and salesperson must ensure that they have education or experience related to that specific type of real estate in order to provide the valuation. Okay, so you can't be just giving out random opinions. Section 8 of the code, services from others. When registrant is not capable of providing services with reasonable knowledge, skill, judgment, and competence, a registrant must advise a client or customer to obtain services from others. Also, under no circumstances should sellers or buyers be dissuaded from seeking such services. That was lesson 6. They just talk about the code of ethics, which is very important. On to lesson 7. If my computer decides to reload, hopefully it does. If not, it's not reloading. Just give me 1 second. Oh, it reloads. Okay. So lesson 7. It still talks about the code of ethics. How much are they going to talk about this? Anyways, the code of ethics and the minimum advertising requirements. An advertisement must comply with the 4 minimum standards: identification of registrant, identification of individual, identification of brokerage, description of registrant. These 4 must be provided on an advertisement. Allowable descriptions for a salesperson are salesperson, real estate salesperson, sales representative, real estate sales representative. For a broker, real estate broker, a broker of record, real estate broker of record. So basically, it's very simple. Advertising prohibitions. Registrants must not use any term to describe a registrant in an advertisement if the term could reasonably be confused, or registration status terms. Such terms such as sales agent, sales associate, or sales consultant are not permitted. Okay. Inaccurate representation. A registrant is prohibited from knowingly making an incorrect statement in respect of a trade in real estate or the services provided by the registrant. An inaccurate statement related to trade could include inaccurate opinions regarding the condition of the property. Inaccurate statements about the service provided are often made in advertisement and generally fall under these 4 categories: comparative rankings, complaints about business volume, promises of saving, honors or rewards received by the registrant. Okay, so you cannot be inaccurately representing anything. Errors, misrepresentation, or fraud. A registrant is not only required to avoid error, misrepresentation, fraud, or any unethical practice, but also take steps to prevent this by anyone involved in all aspects of their work, confirming information about a property, relying on a third-party professionals, completing their due diligence throughout any transaction are leading practices to comply with this code. Unprofessional conduct, abuse, and harassment. A registrant cannot engage in any omission that would a registrant cannot engage in any act or omission that would reasonably be regarded as disgraceful, dishonorable, unprofessional, and or unbecoming. A registrant must not abuse or harass any person in the course of trade in real estate. That was lesson 7. So basically it just tells you what not to do. Lesson 8 is about lesson 8 is basically summary practice activities. You guys can do that on your own. Let's see if we have any more information on the module summary one more time before we hit quit for today. Module summary. So basically everything we've talked about so far, and that was pretty much it. Okay, so this was module 5, course 1. Thank you for watching this whole video. If it helped, let me know. If not, let me know how I can fix things to do this better. Yeah, I hope this helped. This is it for me. Thank you. Have a good night. Thank you. Bye.